Hello, it's me, Christine. Welcome to my little crime corner. Beverly Potts was a shy 10-year-old living in Cleveland, Ohio, with her parents Robert and Elizabeth, and her sister Anita, who was 12 years older than her. Beverly, although very shy, had a penchant for the performing arts. On August 24th, 1951, Beverly and her friend Patricia, who lived next door, had gotten permission from their parents to go to Halloran Park, which was a nearby park that was featuring their annual summer children's performance. This park wasn't considered the safest, especially at night, because of the heavy vagrant population, so this was a special thing for the girls, as they often weren't allowed to go to this park alone. Beverly and Patricia first went to the park around 7 p.m. on their bikes. At 8 p.m., they went back home to drop off their bikes because they thought, with so many people there for the children's performance, it would have been easier to maneuver their way through the crowd on foot. They then had to hurry back as they didn't want to miss any of the performances. They arrived back at the park without their bikes a little before 8:30. Patricia was nervous about how much time had passed, since she had promised her parents that she would be home before dark, so she suggested to Beverly that soon they should be making their way home. Beverly had said no, she didn't want to go home. She had gotten permission from her parents to stay in the park and see the entire show, and she did not intend on leaving early, especially since they had already used up so much of their time going to the park, then returning home to drop off their bikes, then walking back to the park. The performance wasn't expected to end until after 9 p.m., and Patricia wasn't interested in getting in trouble, so she said goodbye to Beverly and made her way back home. When Patricia reached the edge of the park, she turned around and saw Beverly standing in the crowd, watching the show. This was the last time she would ever see her. At just around 9:30, the show had ended and the park started clearing out. A teenage boy from the neighborhood who knew Beverly said he saw her walking diagonally across the street between two cross streets, West 117th Street and Lynette Avenue, which was where Beverly lived. This was a shorter distance than walking around either block. By taking this path, Beverly should have been home in just a few minutes. The boy was sure it was Beverly because he recognized her distinctive duck-like gait. There were also several other witnesses that said they had seen a young girl resembling Beverly walking down West 117th Street, where they also saw a 1937 black Dodge Coupe with two men in it talking to her. Between all of the witnesses, they weren't able to give police an exact time, but all accounts placed the girl by the car between 8:30 and 9:30 p.m. No one had seen the girl entering the car, but weren't able to tell if she walked away after. Beverly's parents waited and waited for her to return home, but by 10 p.m., they became concerned and began searching the neighborhood on their own. After an hour of searching and finding no sign of her, they then called police. The police luckily took this seriously and began a large-scale search. They had determined early on that Beverly had a stable and healthy home life and was by all accounts happy, and that she would have no reason to run away from home. Her family loved her, and each member was quickly eliminated as a suspect. The police spent several days going door to door around the neighborhood, tracing suspicious cars, evaluating the people that were hanging around in the several vagrant lots, and used a plane to be able to search the open fields and look into the open railway cars. They ended up getting thousands of telephone tips called in due to the heavy interest and early on press coverage, which they painstakingly went through and looked into each and every one. Unfortunately, none of the many tips provided any solid leads. It was known to people close to Beverly that she was extremely shy around people she didn't know, especially men. It was believed by investigators that she was possibly enticed into a neighbor's home or car nearby. They were certain that if she went with anyone willingly, it would have had to have been someone she knew. Although Beverly was very young, she was a trusted and reliable babysitter for several neighbors, so she would have been familiar with most, if not all, of the families on the street. It was theorized by investigators that Beverly might have been abducted and killed by a neighbor and then buried in or around one of the houses on Lynette Avenue. A search of one of the building's basements was conducted in 1973, but no signs of Beverly were found, and they didn't end up searching any other buildings as there were no local suspects. Just after her disappearance, Beverly's father's stagehand union had offered a $1,500 reward, equivalent to over $15,000 today, for any information on her whereabouts. Over the years, several suspects had appeared on police's radar. However, none of them could be definitively linked to Beverly's disappearance. A man named Harvey Lee Rush told police in California in 1955 that he had killed Beverly after luring her to a bridge with candy. His story had several discrepancies, including saying the murder took place in 1952, which was 1 year after her disappearance. He also was not the most reliable source. He was known by police as a drifter from Cleveland who had trouble getting his story straight. He was then extradited back to Cleveland from California, and then he recanted his entire story and said he confessed only as a way to get back home. Unbelievable. What could a train ticket cost? Then, in 1980, 2 retired Cleveland detectives said that in 1974, they had gotten a tip from a local attorney who said that they had a client whose brother supposedly confessed to abducting Beverly. When the detectives found out, they were able to track down and question this man's brother. During questioning, this man readily admitted that he was living in the area in 1951 and admitted to having a habit of picking up and molesting young girls there. While the man said he didn't actually remember abducting Beverly in particular, he did have flashes of memories that involved a young girl named Beverly. Although the 2 detectives were convinced that this man was guilty, the county prosecutor's office decided that they would not be pursuing the case due to lack of evidence. In 1988, an Ohio man named William Henry Redmond, who worked as a carnival worker, was indicted for the murder of an 8-year-old girl named Jane Marie Althoff in Pennsylvania in 1951. While in prison, William allegedly told his cellmate that he had killed 3 other young girls. When he was later questioned about Beverly Potts' case in particular, he refused to make a statement one way or the other. Take that the way you will. It was confirmed that he was in the same area as Beverly around the time of her disappearance and had a known record of child molestation convictions, which dated all the way back to 1935. In 1994, a letter was found under the carpet of a home in Cleveland, written by a woman claiming she caught her husband disposing Beverly Potts' body in their furnace. When police had tracked down the woman who had written the letter, while being questioned, she had admitted that the allegation was false. She said she had written the letter for the sole purpose as an act of revenge against her abusive husband. Just literally, ugh. I cannot. Beginning in 2000, letters began turning up on Brent Larkin's desk, a reporter for the Cleveland Plain Dealer, that seemed to imply that an older man on his deathbed wanted to confess to the murder of Beverly Potts before his death. The letter was written anonymously and said he would turn himself in on August 24th, 2001, which would have been the 50th anniversary of Beverly's disappearance. However, very shortly before the imminent reveal date, he wrote another letter saying he was entering a nursing home and couldn't reveal his identity. This led to an extensive investigation that ended up turning up nothing, leading Brent to believe that the letters had been a hoax from the very beginning. Beyond frustrating. Like, why do that? Why? Beverly's mother, Elizabeth, died in 1956, attributed to a broken heart from her daughter's disappearance. Her father, Robert, passed away in 1970, and her sister, Anita, passed away in 2006, holding out hope that she would still see her sister again, but unfortunately, this didn't happen. There is a memorial marker for Beverly beside her parents' headstones, as to this day, she has not been found. This is such a sad case, and I'm sorry to say there's no resolution. At least not yet. The fact that her disappearance occurred on such a crowded night where so many people would have had the opportunity to see something or say something, I definitely feel like the police could have searched a few more buildings or spent more time looking into that mysterious car that several witnesses had seen. Just be aware of your surroundings, and if something in your gut tells you something's not right, just say something to someone or make a note in your phone of a license plate or a description. Tell somebody if something seems off, and just keep your radars up. You never know. Just be careful. Well, that is all I have for you today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.